Hey, everybody. Welcome back to this. I'm your host, Shauna Griffiths. And today we've got real talk with two real leaders. So it's a special episode for us because we only usually have one person. But we have two absolutely phenomenal women who are leading an awesome company called NationBuilder. So we've got Dae Levine and Lea on Endres. Endres. I think I got it right there.
Hey, Shauna.
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much for coming on. And Dae, I know you're sitting in the seat of the VP of Marketing and Communications, and Lea, you're the CEO and co-founder. So, and you just added a president who is also a female. So shout out to just really putting females in the seat of leadership. I love it.
Thank you. We're so thrilled. And yes, that is Hillary Doe, who has been our Chief Strategy Officer for a very long time and is now in the president seat, which we're just thrilled about.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we get into things, I want to make sure that we give the audience context of NationBuilder. And so if we can zoom out a little bit from what I know and was so excited to learn from my conversations with you, Dae, is that it is software focused on democratizing democracy. But that's as far as I will go into it, because you sure know it better than I do. So please let us know what are you all doing and what's it all about?
Yeah, well, I'm just so thrilled to be here and in the context of real talk, because leaders, it's kind of everything that we do. So we make software for leaders. And basically what that means is just anybody, anywhere who is, trying to build a community and lead them to action and make something happen in the world. So that could be nonprofit leaders, folks in the political sphere, big brands, small businesses. My mom uses it. Basically just anyone who needs to build a community and lead them to action.
That's phenomenal. And I love the synergy of the fact that we're actually recording this on December 9th, and it is the kickoff of the Democracy Summit here in the US, which is, I was watching news last night and saw that and got so excited. I have personally become so much more interested in our democracy, which is almost like, I'm a little embarrassed to say it at this point in my life, that it wasn't earlier, but I'm really leaning into it. And so that's,
yeah, it did. I don't think it had to be earlier, Shauna.
Yeah, it's true.
Because like we've only recently started to sort of in some ways tear it apart. So the way that people are approaching, voters are approaching, organizations are approaching advocacy, and candidates and powerful companies are approaching politics is very different now than it was when we were growing up. So I think that it makes sense that there's a summit that's focusing on it. God willing, they'll come up with the way to protect it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's exactly that. It's that protection of it. And so that's why I truly am so grateful for what you're doing and this powerful tool that you're putting in people's hands. But you were not both in this seat always. And Dae, I know it's a pretty new role for you. So I would love for each of you and Dae, and either one of you can go first, but let's make sure we tell the audience which one it is of you. But we like to talk to give the audience a look at people's evolution, because sometimes people think like, well, this person, this leader, this real authentic leader got to their seat like overnight, or someone gifted it to them or something. And I love to give people a sneak peek into like, what's your evolution to the seat that you're in now? So whoever wants to go first.
I'll start. So I've been working in campaigns and candidate election campaigns, issue advocacy campaigns. I've basically been a campaigner for most of my life. Around the 2000 elections, if y'all remember those, we saw a real hiccup in the way that democracy and voting opportunity was rolled out nationwide. I decided to go back and get my master's at that point and study electoral policy, and found out exactly how unfairly our systems were delivered to not just in our counties and our states and our country, but around the world. And decided to broaden my perspective and became really focused on the applied policy analysis side of that. But my heart and the kind of life that I love is in campaign world. So I went back to campaigns for a while. And then most recently was working in public service for the city of Los Angeles during COVID in communications, and really found that there was just a moment of utter, I think when you know you're not doing your job well anymore because of fatigue, you have to really recognize that. And I was really lucky to have relationships with people who helped me identify what I could possibly do next. And I reached out to Lea, with whom I'd had a friendship and relationship as a kind of co-conspirator and collaborator in the efforts to enhance democracy worldwide. Now here I am. So, I mean, I've wrapped up that story pretty quickly, but, I know we have other questions, and I think, that really it felt that quick. So I can say it that quickly.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. And Dae, I just have to absolutely, like, I don't know whether it's salute you or just tell you, I think how awesome it was, is that, like, you literally said, it wasn't like I want to do this job to get a paycheck. Was like, you followed this passion that you had. You went back and got your, another degree in it. And so it is just such an amazing thing, and super selfless, because you're doing this to really help this world and other leaders and make an impact. And it's so much like what this brand is all about, SLG Impact. And because we only have one life. And so I just think it's amazing what you're doing with it. So, and Lea, tell us about your evolution.
Oh my goodness. Well, first I'll just say I'm so grateful that Dae made the choice to come to NationBuilder. To your point around selfless, I really feel like what I know her to be about is of service. And that's just so needed in this moment, I think, for folks to really align what they care most about, what they're gifted at, with the thing that they think they can contribute right now. And so just want to shout Dae out, obviously. And my journey here, to your point about, I think, leaders in process, I don't think we talk about that enough. Folks see people on camera or listen to them on podcasts or on stage or whatever, and just think, they kind of landed there and they've always been there. And so I love this question. I think the nutshell on me is my background is in human rights advocacy and leadership development. When I was 15, I had a kind of a formative and crazy experience that sort of set me on the path around leadership in particular. And so for many years, I traveled around within the nonprofit sector and was helping to build capacity at the local level in different communities around the world. And, did that for a long time. And I would just say at some point, I was really frustrated by what I would, I guess, categorize now as like a lack of systemic change. Great people in the nonprofit sector doing such incredible work, great programs. And I was like, this isn't scaling. And so met Jim Gilliam, who is, the founder of NationBuilder, my co-founder. And long story, very short, because we actually wrote a book about it, so I won't give you that full story. Decided to join forces because what he was up to was trying to figure out how to get the tools of leadership and organizing into the hands of millions of people through technology. And I had that light bulb moment of, right, that version scales. And you can, of course, layer on the cultural and the educational work that supports leaders, but you have to have that tech layer. So I've been building the company for the last, over 10 years.
Oh, wow. That's great context about that, how long it's been that you've been creating it. I didn't know that, but let me ask you, what's the name of the book so the audience can hear?
Oh, totally. Yes. So if folks haven't read it, it's The Internet is My Religion. It's also a speech. So if you want a 13-minute version, that's the speech. And for folks that don't know, it's kind of an intense story with just to say briefly, Jim had cancer when he was a teenager, and then got it again, and then ultimately had a double lung transplant. And so part of, sharing the story of NationBuilder is sharing, he was really trying to give back to all the people who had given to him, and he wanted to do something, to as big as he could imagine, to be of service. And so that was the genesis for NationBuilder. And part of why we built the company together, in addition, of course, to our amazing co-founder, Jesse Haff, we did that together because we knew, A, we wanted to work together. B, we had really deeply shared values and missions, and thought we could complement each other's skill sets. And also, if something ever happened to him because of his health history, that I was our president, he was our CEO, that I would take over. And so he passed away in November of 2018. And, I think it's something that is hard to talk about, but is also important to talk about, because it's also, to your question, why I'm in this seat. I did not intend, I can tell you right now, for anyone listening, I did not intend to be a tech CEO. That was, not what I thought I was going to be up to. So, yeah.
Well, you are blazing the path for sure. And I think I'm getting an idea of what, Dae, when you and I talked about, you said that Lea has this infectious quality about her as a leader. And I'm seeing it and hearing it in this conversation. And so I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that. What's that like?
To work with Leah is to have a million light bulbs going off in your brain at every moment that you're in conversation with her. You know, you like get out of a meeting, you're like, I have a million things to do. I'm going to do them all well. I have the support I need to do them. We have all the energy that we need. And I have all the understanding and you know, the contextual support to make those things happen. She is just a really like, she's a yes and person, and I like to be around yes and people. There are a whole bunch of no but people around the world, you know, like no, but you know, and I really like, it's exhausting how many no but people there are around the world, and so to get to work with yes and people, and I have had that joy before, but never kind of. I feel like there's a real symbiotic syncopation between myself and Leah, and we're still working out some of that rhythm.
Yeah.
And actually, like, there's something really interesting about how much trust I think we have in each other, and yet how that rhythm still is working itself out in like a very, very real way that I've not had in other roles. And partially I haven't had it because roles are often very closely defined, you know, well defined, and my job is defined. I have a job description, but nobody sat in my seat before. So there's just a lot of latitude, and I love that latitude. It's like to say the sky's the limit is actually putting it too low, like the galaxy is the limit, like into whatever's after galaxy. There is no limit.
Yeah.
So it's really exciting. It means that, you know, I wake up every day like really excited to go to work. And I needed that. Again, I've had that in jobs before, but after the job that I recently left, which was a really fatiguing job, and I'm glad I did it, and I never would have wanted anything else. It's nice to have that energy back again.
Yeah. And I have to pause for a second, because when you talked about the light bulbs, it's when you have an authentic leader that, to your point, is making sure that you are supported, you have the infrastructure, you have the emotional capacity, the support there is results in how you feel, rather than a lot of times other people, you get these kind of crazy visionaries that are just like poo, ideas, and these light bulbs going off, but it's almost like an assault. And so, but it's very different. I think that has so much to do with the quality of that leader and the authenticity of that leader. So thank you for sharing that. And it's amazing to hear that you're operating that way, Leah. And I'm gonna turn the table for a moment here. And you know, when you're picking as a leader, Leah, you're picking people who are in these critical seats for you, and picking the right person is sometimes a daunting task. And I'm curious for you to share, you know, how that was in knowing that Dae was like the one that you needed to be in this really important seat at the Vice President of Marketing Communication, that's really carrying the voice of your brand and that identity.
No, it's so key. And it's part of why we've not really had this role, because how do you, and I think both Jim and I and Jesse have always been, you know, really the brand is like the most important thing. And so it's hard to let that go. And I think couple things to say about Dae, and then also maybe more generally about finding folks to work with, is, you know, trust is everything. And for us, the company is about the mission. So, you know, to your point earlier around democratizing democracy, how do you find a communications leader who is not only incredibly skilled at their job and the daily mechanics of that role, but who also, you know, has a background in the master's degree that Dae mentioned, and a fierce commitment to advocacy and really equipping people around the world like she has, to truly be able to communicate the essence of the brand. Because it's kind of hard to get your head around. We're like, let's talk about the experiment of self-governance and, you know, the real muscle that it is to live in a democratic society, to create civil discourse, to get the tools of leadership available to everyone, to serve all communities. I mean, there's a lot to communicate about that brand. So I had, you know, just so much confidence that Dae was the right person to do that and to take that on. And I think, you know, for folks that might be listening who do hiring, it's so challenging. I think it's one of my favorite parts of my job, and certainly the most challenging, because it is a relationship. You're basically, in this back and forth, like, is this the person I want to spend the next, like, hopefully many years with building this thing? And so I would just say, I encourage people to really take their time, and not just for executive hires, but I meet everybody that we interview at the company, if they've progressed through the process. And I think what I'm really looking for in general are people who, are authentic and are going to say the thing. One of our core values at NationBuilder is, just say the thing, because if you're trying to build with other human beings, which is ultimately like the act of leadership, you want people who are going to say what's true. And even if that's really uncomfortable, where they might be like, hey, that thing you said to me in a meeting, it really didn't land right, and we got to work that out. And, we just actually finished our reviews process, annual reviews last week. And I just love it. I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's just that space for people to be able to talk about how they want to grow and what's next for them, and how they can be supported with the people that are with them every day. Because it's a really special and unique relationship, the ones that we have with our colleagues.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Dae, I know that, so thank you for sharing that. And Dae, you definitely a special one. And I should have said this in the beginning, but you were actually referred to me by a mutual friend that we have, Asia Bradley Kemp, who is president she's a founder of Conversate Collective, and she is just amazing. So Asia, if you listen to this, thank you so much. She just raved about you, and I can definitely see from her perspective and Leah's that you're truly a light in this world, both of you making wonderful things happen. So thank you again for coming here and for sharing all that you are. And so Dae, while I'm kind of pointing at you here, you talked about your changing roles, your evolution, and you went from that seat in the mayor's office, the LA mayor, right? And then you're now at a tech, like a software company. That's a huge shift. So, talk about that, because I think sometimes people think like, oh, they're going to shift their career, but they'll actually be held back from it because they're afraid. I haven't had a career in tech. And so talk about a little bit about how's it been, especially as a leader, taking that big leap.
So it points a little bit to what Leah was talking about. Like, values are intrinsic, skills can be learned. And I'm very lucky that I'm working for a person at a company that recognizes those differences. So if your values aligned and you know something about the way the person works and how they approach their kind of their mission, then the skills can be secondary to that. I took on this role not knowing how to do some of the pieces of it. There are two aspects or three, let me say, that get me through that hump. One is that I have an amazing team. And I don't just mean the marketing and communications team. I mean the leadership team as well, really the whole staff at NationBuilder. There's not a single person there who doesn't kind of raise their hand to help and actually go out of their way to help. Two is that we understand that training is part of it. So there are aspects that you can learn, and you can go outside to learn those things. And three is just having patience with myself, and also from other people to myself, just knowing that there's a long on-ramp when you're bringing on a senior leadership team member, just knowing that there's who's new to the company that's been around for a long time, and most of the people that are there have been around for many years. There's going to be an on-ramp of learning curve. And I think that I have all of the right pieces around me to make this a success. And I knew that going in, or it wouldn't have been as comfortable to make the leap. And I had other offers that were much more exactly what I've done before. And I decided to do the thing that wasn't exactly what I've done before, partially with the confidence that I could do it because of the way that Leah and the whole team approach onboarding.
That's incredible. And I think as you're saying it, two things stuck out to me, and that's the courage that it takes to make a leap like that, confidence it takes to make a leap like that, but also the grace that you give yourself, and that you with such an incredible team around you, that they're providing that same meeting you with grace. So that's awesome. And thank you for sharing that. And so Lea, you are, you're in this role, you created this incredibly powerful tool, and it literally has the power to change this world. And so I think that's probably really uplifting at times, but it's probably also pretty heavy at times. And so it's an interesting duality to handle all the time. So would love your thoughts on what's that like.
You said it really well. It's both of those things. It's such a joy and such a delight, and seeing what people are able to do. I mean, I don't know if I have the stats off the top of my head, but like, I think last year in 2020, our customers raised like $350 million in donations and mobilized like 400,000 volunteers. And what people were able to do around COVID. We ended up basically giving free nations, we call them nations, to anybody who wanted them to do emergency relief or coordinate essential services. And what that made possible is just extraordinary.
Yeah.
And at the same time, this it is a real, it's heavy, the weight, being a tech company in this era and seeing what's happening in our world as a result of, I would argue, algorithmic amplification, you could say, and the polarization, and it's complex. And I think the reason that I do it is, I want to use the time I have here, to your point earlier on, like, time is short. And so I want to make the most of my time here. And I think that's frankly what really aligned both me and Jim when I met him, because he was always conscious of how much time, he had. And we just wanted to create both a space and a technology that helped facilitate people making that contribution. And so it's no joke. I mean, I spend my days like, democracy and what's happening to it, and authoritarianism and its rise, and those are the topic matters we're dealing with every day. And thinking about our role in that, thinking about technology companies at large, their role in it, and really just trying to frankly make a space for the conversations that often don't happen. I think that's something I'm particularly passionate about, because there's a lot of buzzwords and there's a lot of back and forth and there's a lot of tweets that people say, to actually create space like you're doing, to have longer form content that's created and that allows for real conversation, so people even remember what it's like to have a back and forth and a dialogue. It's just so critical. And so, to answer your question, it is, like you said, both really beautiful and can be really heavy. And honestly, I think that's leadership. That just is what it is. And so if there was one thing I was going to say to people, it's anyone can lead. It's just a choice. The complicated thing is making it over and over and over again, because you have to choose it every day. And it's just not always, it's fairly rarely, it's rarely easy, is how I would say that. It's pretty hard.
Well, I mean, you said that I said what I did well. You said, couldn't said it better. I mean, that is just absolutely spot on. As a leader, it is a choice every day to lead. And I think that, some people say, well, it's not easy to lead. It's not, but it's a choice. And it's also like making that, as you just said, it's like making that choice and having the courage, as I was saying to you earlier, Dae, like you had the courage to make these choices along as a leader. And it's having the courage to make the hard decisions, to be authentic every day. But it is so absolutely critical. And so again, that's why I'm so grateful to know you both. I'm so grateful for the work that you're doing and to have you on here. And so before I let you go, I would love for you to share with us a little bit about just like what can we look for from from NationBuilder in the year to come.
Yes. Well, I would say broadly, our goal, of course, is to get the tools of leadership and community organizing and community building in the hands of millions of people. So this next year is really focused on making sure that we, let's say, add another million-ish. And because Dae is here, we really want to tell our story. I think for most of NationBuilder's history, we're really thinking of ourselves as infrastructure and lifting up other people telling their stories. I think it's time now to really share ours. And with a majority female-led leadership team, I'm also particularly excited to have those women share their stories.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Well, I can't wait to continue following all the amazing work that you're doing, to continue knowing you both. And hopefully I'll be able to find somebody that I can hook you up to, and then we can actually collaborate at some point together.
I'd love that.
So thank you so much. I just cannot thank you enough for the work that you're doing. I probably said it 4 times on this recording, but you're both amazing, and I wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you, Shauna.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much.